Hey, what's going on? My name is Jim, and this is 10 Minutes with a Missionary. I want to give props to Greg Bosch, my coach, for this idea, and he said to try this. So I'm just going to open up the camera and talk to you guys. I've been a missionary now in Asia for over 25 years. Never imagined that growing up. I grew up in small town Mississippi, moved all over the state, and I never imagined that I would be spending the majority of my life in Asia. I've spent 19 years in China, and now I live in Bangkok, Thailand with my beautiful wife, and we are here. We are just in the beginning stages of planning a church. And so if you've got a burden for the unreached, if you've got a burden to reach people, man, come on. What are you waiting for? Why aren't you in Bangkok? This is a city of 17 million, and so many people here have yet to hear the gospel and really had a chance to experience Jesus and experience what it means to follow him and to have your life come alive and be made new by him. And so that's what we're here doing right now. But I just want to kind of tell you a little bit about myself and my backstory. I grew up in Mississippi, like I said. My dad was a pastor, but I did not really have a personal relationship with the Lord until I got saved my senior year of high school and went to Bible college and had a calling, a burden, however you want to call it, an interest, a desire to go to the nations and to be a missionary. I just heard all the statistics about, the need here in places like Asia, where so many people have yet to hear the gospel, with so many Christian workers, in places like America and places like Canada and Europe and even Central America and South America that have had the gospel for, centuries. But there's so many, in the 1040 window that had yet to hear the gospel, and still even today that have yet to hear the gospel. And so that kind of drew me and made me just want to just say to the Lord, here am I, send me, wherever it is you want me to go, I'll go. Just don't send me to a country that has a tonal language, please. I really prayed that prayer, and then I ended up in China. And as you know, Chinese is a tonal language, but it was super hard at the beginning. But actually, by God's grace, I became fluent in it. And but going there at 20 years old, I couldn't even ask, where the bathroom was, where people could understand me. And so that was super hard. Moved there super young, just lots of passion. And, I had a 2-year commitment, and it was really hard, actually. I'm not going to lie. It was a completely different world then, 1999 China compared to China now, completely different world. And, you blink now in China and there's a new skyscraper that's been built in a day. They have developed so quickly in every aspect. But back then it was a big culture shock moving from the States over there, and there was only about 10 foreigners in our whole city. There were about 1 million people in the city. It's this little small city by Chinese standards, only 1 million people, called Yuxi in Yunnan province, which is in the southwestern part of China. It's an hour south of the provincial capital called Kunming, which is also known as the Spring City. And so I went there, and because I felt a call and a draw to China, and I didn't know anybody. And then my last semester of Bible college, I met this guy who was going to move there, and his mom and her husband were there as missionaries. And so that's how God opened the door, and it was really amazing. I'll tell in another video. This is a story of how God lined that up. But moved to China, and funny story. My first night in China. If you're a Christian, and if you're not a Christian, you're not gonna know who this person is probably. But if you're a Christian, you'll know. The first night I'm in China, you will not believe who is doing a concert at the Bible college. No Bible colleges in China that are official licensed, but at the language school, the university that I was going to. Larry Norman. Does anybody know Larry Norman out there? Is that the wildest thing ever? I go all the way across the world. I'm on at that time, I think our plane, there's 3 or 4 stops along the way. It was 48-hour trip at that time. Now I can do it in about 30 hours, but you go all the way across the world And I mean, all the stories in between. And then like at night, you're sitting there and it's like Larry Norman is like doing a concert. It was really, really crazy. And that's another story. But I moved there and started studying the language because you can't move there and say you're a missionary because those are not supposed to exist in China. And so people usually go and do things like teach English or study the language or do business or something like that. And then through that, have a chance to build relationships with people and share the gospel. And so I started studying Chinese and was studying 5 days a week and had some amazing teachers who were so kind. I mean, none of the students at that time, we couldn't say anything, you know, and so like paying our water bill, paying our electric bill, you know, extending our visas, like all that stuff, like our teachers had to help us. So they weren't just like our teachers like in the classroom, but they were like our translators, and you know, we would eat with them, and they were just really kind and really generous. I even remember like I think it was the first winter or second winter I was there, I had no heat, no hot water besides solar powered hot water, which you know, that was kind of hit or miss because during the rainy season, you know, sometimes you wouldn't see the sun for a month or so. And so cold showers, and then the winter time would get down to around freezing there, and so it would get cold inside your little dorm apartment because there was no insulation. It was like concrete brick, you know, concrete block walls, and so you can imagine how cold it would get. But like the story about our teachers, like they loved all the students like so much, and like they felt bad and gave me a heater one winter, and like I remember I was like so happy because it was so cold. I would literally like wear 4 and 5 layers of clothes like to sleep in at night. I would wear a toque, like a beanie, to sleep in because it was so cold and there was no heat. But they were so nice and so caring, and we got to share the gospel with them. And some of them had become Christians already, and then others, I got to become a Christian. They became Christians later on after we were there for a while. But really cool, cool place because you were forced to speak Chinese because it wasn't like living in Kunming at the time, which there were, you know, hundreds, probably thousands of foreigners. Or even now, like I'm in Bangkok, you know, there's foreigners everywhere. You can literally just speak English in Bangkok and get around, you know, pretty much just fine. Do a lot of stuff, but there you had to speak Chinese. And so it really forced me to build relationships and to, you know, fall flat on my face time after time, you know, with the language as I tried to learn. Because, yeah, the sounds in Chinese, if you studied it before, you know, it's like it's so different and so foreign, like to our mouths that have been, you know, accustomed to speaking English in America and have never had to move another way. Like, I mean, I would remember those classes, like pronunciation classes, where you're just sitting there and you're like making like the stupidest sounds, like it sounds like with the teacher, like for hours. And because it's this sound, your mouth has never moved in this way, your tongue has never moved in this way, and it was like so frustrating. But hey, got it finally, praise God. But Yushi was like such a cool place. It was known for its cigarette factory. It has, I think, even to today, like it has the largest cigarette factory in Asia. At that time, I think it was like the second or third largest in the world. And there's like a red pagoda that's right behind this school. Actually, I could see it out my apartment window. That's kind of like the symbol of the cigarette factory. And so most everybody in China, it may like not be clear or not be sure like on where Yushi is, but they all know, oh, the red pagoda cigarettes, like, oh yeah, because they're like the most famous cigarettes in China. So it's Hongta. And so the Hongta Shan, like the Red Pagoda Mountain, was like right outside my window, and so I could every morning wake up and like see it out there. But there was, man, so many stories about the 2 years I spent there, 2.5 years. I had so many good times with students there, and I'm going to talk to you next time about some of those stories because I'm going to try to keep this at 10 minutes every time, okay? So I don't bore you guys, all right? Hey, I hope you enjoyed this. I look forward to seeing you next time on 10 Minutes with a Missionary.